Well, hello, everyone. I see that everyone is getting introduced in the chat, so feel free to let us know where you're at and what the weather is like today. As we get started here, I am going to go through just a couple of quick reminders and announcements. The first one being that this meeting is recorded. And so if you miss part of it or you want to hear any of it, we'll have that posted to our website. And if you have any questions today throughout the presentation, feel free to pop those in the chat. I'll be sharing some things in the chat, some of the resources and some links to things. So keep your eye out, and I'll keep my eye out for any questions that you might have. I did have just a couple of other reminders here. So don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have any exciting work that you'd like to share with our partnership here, feel free to fill out our form. We can pop it in the newsletter. Maybe you'll present it to one of our next calls here, and we would love to hear from you. Another way to get involved is by joining the CSTP Advisory Committee. It's a wonderful group of people to work with, and we're always trying to find ways to improve our partnership and just engage with all of you more. And so if you have some ideas that you'd like to share and you'd like to work with us on this partnership, we would love to have you join us. And speaking of our advisory committee, I'm going to have one of our committee members share a little bit of information with you. And while I'm switching over to her, I've got a quick poll that I'm going to launch here just to get some of your feedback on just some new ideas that you might be interested in. So take a moment to answer some of these questions that I've launched here, and I am going to hand it over to Kirsten Thompson.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Well, afternoon in my time zone, Eastern time zone. My name is Kirsten Thompson, and as Jenny said, I am one of the members of the advisor committee, along with Jenny, of course, and Greg Duffick, who's on the call today. We have been talking quite a bit in our meetings about, where do we want the child support training partnership to go? And that's what part of these poll questions are today is, we want to hear from all of you. Like, what are you hoping to get out of the child support training partnership? One of the things that we've been discussing quite a bit is, wanting to have more networking where we can directly share ideas with each other and talk through our challenges. So we're trying to get some ideas and feedback about those ideas before we put a whole bunch of work into launching a networking event. We'd like to see if that's interesting to people. I think that's all I pretty much wanted to say about that. But while I'm talking about networking, I did want to put in a plug for if anyone's going to the NCA Leadership Symposium, I am going to be doing a session there along with Roy Casilla from California, Sacramento County. And we're going to be talking about a training topic that is how we take subject matter experts from child support. And we have two different approaches for a train the trainer program. So we can take a SME and turn them into a trainer and help them build the trainer skill set that's so essential to communicating all of that wonderful program knowledge that they have after being in the field for so long. So if you're there, I would love to meet you and talk training in the hallways as well as in our session. I don't know if you need more time, Jenny, for the polls, but the next thing I wanted to do is introduce our speakers today. And this has come up because one of the first things that I remember about the Child Support Training Partnership is that we were discussing ways that we could share curriculum between all of our jurisdictions. That's, there's a lot of training content that could be shared because it's not necessarily specific to your one state. And it'd be great, since we're all so busy and understaffed, that if we could share some of the curriculum that we have. And so that's what leads us to our next speaker. The company is Public Knowledge, and Holly and Mia are here today. And they have a product that is, it's customer service training that's specific to the child support context. So it's not, you know, it helps by, you know, grounding us within the context and the experience of delivering child support customer service. So we are using this product in Michigan, and I thought it might be interesting for other folks to see. So I think take it away, Holly and Mia. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten and Jenny, for the really warm welcome. Hello, everybody. Hello from New Jersey and from Canada. My colleague Holly is in Canada. We're really excited to talk to you about this topic, and Kirsten really gave a great introduction to say this is one of those topics that is not state or jurisdiction specific. It's one of those topics that's really about the heart of what we do, the services that we provide. We're talking about how customer service is one of those things that is a broad enough topic that regardless of what your jurisdiction is, it's something that we really want to give a little extra thought to and pay a little bit of attention of how we are raising our bar as professionals, as human services providers, right? I like to say when I think about customer service, specifically in child support, that, you know, we're the people who are helping people in their hour of need, right? The two most important things in their lives, their children and their finances, their ability to provide for their family. So for us to have a common goal of what does a good child support professional look like from a customer service perspective, I think is a really fantastic mindset for all of us to have, to really be committed to thinking about that. So that was what led us to the idea at Public Knowledge to have some sort of training program that we could do, that we could make available across all jurisdictions. And so we landed on developing effective child support customer service training in a series of e-learning modules. So what's wonderful about that is that they're all self-paced, and we're going to get into that. Don't skip yourself, Holly. I was just about to do our introductions. So as Kirsten said, with you today is myself, Mia, and my colleague, Holly. I have been with Public Knowledge for almost 4 years now, and they have flown by so quickly. It is amazing. Before that, I was the director at the Rutgers, New Jersey Child Support Institute. And before that, I was in the private sector in pharmaceuticals and cosmetics. So I've spent my whole career in basically training and professional development across many industries. I have to say my favorite has been child support, because I get to see the impact that we have, that the training that we do has on families all over the country. Holly, why don't you do an introduction of yourself as well?
Thank you, Mia. And as you can see, my name is Holly Sherrard, and I'm a business development manager for Public Knowledge. I've been with the company technically for 6 months, but in my role with a sister division of our company for 2 years. And previous to this, Mia and I have very similar backgrounds. I was the education manager for a global skincare company. I was the education manager for Canada. And so I've spent a little over 20 years in the training industry and sales in different capacities. I've absolutely loved working with Public Knowledge. I've worked on this project since its inception, and have loved the experience that we've gained from all of the attendees and demos that we've done, and truly thankful to Kirsten for bringing us to the CSTP today to be able to present to everyone on the call. It has been hugely successful in many organizations, and just simply for myself personally and with professional development, the conversations we've had regarding the courses has been eye-opening. And Mia, I have to also say that it's been really great working in the child support space, because knowing that we're helping the parents and the children, it warms my heart. So thank you for having us today.
Thanks, Holly. And that's a really great segue into talking about what the modules in this series are about and how we kind of planned out what the topics should be and what type of content and activities we should have in each module. So what you're seeing right now is the list of all 5 modules. So we start out with, explaining what the basics of effective child support customer service are about, making sure we have a level set understanding of what our expectations are, how do we know we're providing good customer service, why is it important to provide good customer service, and some of the unique things about the services we provide, right? Because again, it's not your typical, I think when you say to customer service to people, they imagine people with headsets, right? Getting those calls. I purchased my cookies and they were all crumbled and okay, I'm sorry, I'll send you a coupon and hopefully you'll be loyal to our brand. Our customer service is a completely different thing. It's really more about human relationship. So you'll see in the modules 2, 3, and 4, we were specific to really take that deep dive into that human relationship side of customer service in building communication skills and then elevating those communication skills to build rapport with our customers. And then we went into a complete module, which is really an introduction to cultural awareness, where we talk about unintended bias and strategies to build cultural competence. And then we wrap up with a 5th module that gives the users a chance to put it all in action. So everything you've learned, we go through some e-learning activities so that they can really see in these scenarios how their choices as professionals can impact which direction their interaction goes with their customers in their training exercises. So Holly has queued up for us, we're going to see on the next slide, she has queued up for us the beginning of our basics module, the very first module. So we'll give a listen here.
And I'll get you to give a thumbs up or thumbs down if you cannot hear, if you can hear.
As child support professionals, you play a vital role in the lives of so many children and their families. You are someone who cares, someone who wants to make a difference in a child's life. You work in child support services because you believe that helping children and their families truly strengthens the foundations of our society. This is why you want to provide the best possible service to all of your customers, the parents, guardians, and other caretakers, and their children, as well as the colleagues, managers, and vendors you partner with to deliver child support services. Working in the child support program is rewarding, but it is also demanding. Generally, your customers rate your work as either positive or negative. You rarely get a gray area rating. This fact makes your job even more challenging, and we know that sometimes it can become discouraging. We applaud your service to America's children and their families. You are heroes on the front lines of this essential service. This course will support your dedication as a public servant and train you to use practical tools that equip you to meet the challenge of providing the best possible service to all of your customers.
So each of the courses start out with an impactful introduction, and there's also, as most e-learning modules are created, there's a screen prior to this that shows the learner how to navigate around in the module. And then one of the things that we wanted to highlight about this module is our learning outcomes. It's positioned in a little bit of a different way.
To successfully meet the challenge of customer perception, this course will help you answer these questions. Who are our customers? What are the traits of effective customer service? How can I consistently demonstrate effective customer service? How can I measure the quality of my customer service interactions? What can I do to improve all my interactions? Is customer service within a child support agency somehow unique? How does effective customer service benefit my work?
So in this case, we really want the learner to ask themselves these questions. And in a little bit, we'll talk about some tools that we've created to help the learner remember what they actually are engaging with. And so in this module, we're asking the questions, and supervisors of the team members who would be taking this could encourage learners to actually answer the questions in somewhat of a reflection journal. So they could write down who they think their customers are right now, what they think the traits of customer service are. And we actually want to ask you, and we'll get you to engage with us at this moment. And we've got a little bit of an exercise for you. So Jenny, do you want to put the information into the chat for the group to engage with our Mentimeter? So we should start to see this populate, and we want to know what you think are 1 to 2 words to describe great customer service. Awesome. I'm happy to see that it is populating and it's working. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to take a screenshot after we see more feedback, because I know there's at least 30 of you on the call, so we should see some more populating here. And we're going to put it into the presentation and share it after the fact. Mia, we can see empathetic, which is a clue to something that we might be looking at in just a few minutes. Respect.
Yes, I'm so excited to see so many words talking about empathy, understanding, compassion,
problem solving,
sincere, problem solving, respectful,
education. I love that one.
Yes.
Listening, solutions, fair, fast, timely. Want to make sure that we're not checking our watch though to push people through. We always want to give them the time.
Right. Caring. Yeah. And so, like with any word cloud, the words that you see that are larger means that there are multiple people that are using those words. So that's always great to know as well. So empathetic, empathy, and compassion are all standing out as the major ones. Proactive, knowledgeable, active listening, engaged, respectful delivery, follow-up. These are great.
Okay, so that will be open for the remainder of the call, so you can continue to enter what you feel are words to describe great customer service. And this is actually an interesting segue to go into our next segment when we're looking at the traits of customer service.
7 traits of effective customer service. What is effective customer service? Well, to begin, it is not delivering the customer's hoped-for outcome every time. That is simply unrealistic. Instead, customer service is effective when, regardless of the outcome, you have treated the customer with respect, you have acknowledged their situation, and you have demonstrated diligence for the best possible outcome. What are the traits of effective customer service? They are: be professional, be patient, be empathetic, be clear, be attentive, be prepared, and be respectful. Select each trait to explore them further.
So this is when I'm going to get someone from the group, so first person to speak up or put it in the chat. We can explore one trait of effective customer service, and if we're really quick with that one, we could potentially explore 2. And my chat box has disappeared, so if you want to support me and let me know what's coming up as the first trait that we want to explore.
First thing I saw in the chat says be patient.
Be patient. All right. So the learner would have to choose each one of the traits in order to move forward. But today we've got an unlocked version, so we can explore as we wish. So let's have a look at be patient.
Patience is demonstrated by not rushing the interaction, trying to put yourself in the customer's shoes by asking, how would I feel if I were in their situation? And is the service I am providing to them what I would hope to receive if I were the parent participating in the child support program? And by understanding that no two child support cases are the same. Showing the customer that their questions do not frustrate you. Using calming techniques, such as maintaining a lower tone of voice, taking breaths before each sentence, and, if necessary, counting to 3 before responding.
So in each of the customer service traits, it'll give us some examples of how to demonstrate, in this instance is patience. And then we would select example, and we would read through this. So you can see there's differences in the screens where part of it is narrated. There's extra text on screen that we can read. So here in this example, we've got a child support professional that's meeting with a mother to gather information of a potential father of her child in order to perform locate services. While answering questions, the mother keeps rambling about how her ex-boyfriend broke up with her by sending a text message. She isn't providing enough detailed information and often breaks down crying. How would this child support professional demonstrate patience? So again, like we were talking about at the beginning of this e-learning module, where there were questions and we encouraged the learner to write down what they think the answers were. This is another instance where the person could write down how they would demonstrate patience in this instance, and then they could select the answer and they can compare and contrast to what they had answered. So it gives them an opportunity to state, okay, I actually do know something about this, and here's more I've learned, or great, I know what I've learned, and it's a great way to reinforce. So here, the child support professional should acknowledge her understanding of the mother's feelings with a statement such as, it must have been difficult and very upsetting when he broke up with you. I'm sorry this situation is causing you pain. Do you need some time before we continue the conversation? And then we would go through and
select another trait for exploration.
Select another trait to explore. So I think we have time for one more. Did we have one more that came up in the chat, Mia?
So the first 3 that came up, 2 were for patient and 1 was be clear.
Be clear, which I hope that we are being clear with you today. So let's have a look at be clear.
Be clear with your questions and responses by being honest about the situation. Do not mislead parents or guardians about possible outcomes. Asking clearly stated, probing questions, and explaining or rephrasing if necessary. Explaining that your communication with them is confidential. Speaking in a way that the parent can understand, and avoiding acronyms and terms the parent may not know or understand.
And then, so we had examples of how to demonstrate clarity. We select example. Again, it gives us an example, poses a question. How would the child support professional demonstrate clarity with this mother? An opportunity for the person to write down what they think their answer is. And then once they click on the answer, they can compare and contrast. So this would go through for each of the 7
Select
traits.
another trait for exploration.
And I loved, and I'm just going to click back to the Mentimeter. You can see here that a lot of the customer service traits that we're talking about in the module have already had come out from the group. So thank you for being so instinctive with what great customer service is. Now, this is the basics of effective child support customer service. We want to show you another part, and this is elevating communication and rapport building skills. So this would be module 3. And this is an opportunity for us to explore how we would get feedback based on a best response or a better response. Whereas there could be a response that you may think is correct, and we give you the learner feedback on how to answer that. So just gonna click play here. And we don't have sound because I turned it down.
You navigate this based on the advanced questioning techniques you've learned. How can you navigate this confrontational situation and turn it into a rapport-building encounter with a parent? You just received a call from the parent who said, "My ex-wife just called and is screaming mad because she didn't get her child support money. I don't know what you're doing wrong over there, but I paid my support." How should you respond? Select the best answer.
So let's just choose something that we might say, okay, did you pay the full amount due? Let's see what happens here. It says that is incorrect. The closed question does not create space or reduce their agitation. Please make another selection. So by this point, the learner has gone through some ways of elevating communication and having clear communication. So they aren't applying what they've learned in this scenario. Let's try this first one. Are you sure you were not doing anything wrong? Are you sure you made the payment for this month? Okay. The statement reveals your own defensiveness. So again, it's giving a reason why that could be the incorrect answer and suggests that is a closed question and, you know, it's their error. Please make another selection. So when we're choosing the correct answer, I can tell that you're upset, or the best answer. Let's start at the beginning to figure out what happened. We're applying the traits of customer service. So we're going back, we're recapping, we're making sure that we understand and that they understand what's happening. And then we can see here that this is a classic beginning to funnel questions, which are broad, open-ended, that gather a lot of information, distract the parent from their anger, diffuse tension, allow to narrow the focus, and of the conversation, the closed questions. Well done. Or through closed questions. We've got one more example from this scenario base.
You have said to the parent, I can tell you're upset. Let's start at the beginning to figure out what happened. How did you make the payment? The parent now explains that they mailed in the payment. How should you respond to their explanation? Select the best answer.
I'll let the group tell me which they think the best answer would be. So you can just select 1, 2, or 3. The first one would be, when did you drop the payment in the mail? The second would be, why didn't you just come into the office to make the payment? And the third, did you mail the payment on time the week before it was due? Which one do you think is the best answer?
So several answers have come flooding in, and they are all number 1.
Okay, let's see. That is correct. The next step in funnel question process, it's a closed question that narrows the focus and asks for specific information. Mia, is there anything that you wanted to recap from this module?
Yeah, so what I'd like to point out with this, and one of the reasons I think that this type of exercise is really great as a learning tool, is because it really underscores that whole, you know, best, better mentality, right? Because there's a lot of times, depending on the situation and depending on what's going on our side of the table and what's going on the customer side of the table, some of these choices may not necessarily be the wrong choice, right? They may be something that instinctually comes out of our mouth, but it may not be the best choice, right? If the goal is to build rapport, which is what this particular module is focused on, and elevate our communication techniques to build that rapport, to build that trust with customers, then what I really like the way we've written these is to show you, yes, you could say, right, did you mail the payment on time the week before it was due? That might be something you instinctually might say to someone. And no matter how nicely you say it and how genuine it sounds, it could be the kind of answer that shuts down the customer as opposed to opens them up and gets you the information you need. So I think that to have that ability to see within the exercise that you can make a choice and what might happen with that choice compared to a different choice, I think is a great learning tool, because it gives them, instead of them just guessing and saying like, okay, yeah, this looks good, and they tell me it's good, and I really don't know why it's good, right? This gives them the opportunity to see, why was this a good selection, or why was this a better selection?
Great, thank you, Mia. So we've covered a little bit in our basics of effective child support customer service, and then we looked at our module on elevating communication and rapport building skills. And what we wanted to do today is just give you a taste of a few of the modules so you can get an idea of what the learners would be experiencing with all 5 modules. The next one is by far my favorite. And it's funny because it is unintended bias and cultural competence. And I am biased towards this one. I actually think it has been the most eye-opening and conversation generating of all of the modules. In particular, what's been happening in both, Canada and the USA over the last couple of years, and really sets the stage for somebody to start learning about where their biases lie and how they can potentially change the way of their thinking so that they aren't as biased and they're becoming more culturally competent. So we're going to go ahead and play the intro, make sure my volume is up here, and we'll recap our thought process behind this after the intro.
Which of these people is most likely to be a nurse? Which of these CEOs probably makes more money? Which of these college grads scored higher on their exams? There are no right or wrong answers to these questions. There is only your answer based on your perception. So the better question is, why did you perceive these people the way you did? Psychology helps us answer this question. As humans, we share a deep history of psychological development. For many good reasons, we have all developed a conscious self, the part of us that interacts with the world around us, and an unconscious self, the part of us that is unseen yet exercises considerable influence over our conscious perception. Its influence is often subtle, more like a whisper in the ear than a bullhorn, and it colors how we perceive everything. It influences how we see others, which in turn affects how and what we communicate with others through our words and actions. It's possible to live an entire life completely unaware of the unconscious self and its influence on our conscious life. It's better, though, to recognize this unseen part of ourselves, acknowledging its presence with care and compassion. Then, roll up our sleeves and get to the challenging work of discerning which of its whispers are still helpful and which of its lenses no longer serve us. This course will help you carry out this challenging work with greater understanding. Our goal is to support your desire and effort to be the best child support professional, the best human being you can be.
So I'll start by saying that this course is available for purchase for any organization as a standalone course. And we love the course so much that we actually designed a generic version of this. And in reaching out to different companies to see if they wanted to purchase this, in our conversations, I came on a demo call and the woman said, well, I didn't really understand why I needed to take an unintended bias and cultural competence course. And then after we played this introduction, she said within the first 10 seconds of it, where it was asking the questions, which of these people are a CEO, who scored higher on their exams, it really helped her understand that we all have bias within us. And it's just a matter of us recognizing it and knowing that it's kind of like a shadow figure that comes alongside of us. So it's not bad, but we do need to be aware of it in order to have productive and effective conversations.
Yeah. One of the things that we were really very sensitive to when we were building this module specifically was the fact that we wanted to help people start that journey, to recognize that we have to do some self-reflection in order to become self-aware. We have to do some reflection on the world around us in order to recognize, right, what our lenses look like. How are we perceiving the people around us, the situations around us? And so what is really the focus of this module is to give the learner strategies and tactics and opportunities in a safe environment to have that moment of reflection, to have that moment of self-awareness, and to be able to think about whatever my enculturation has been, and as natural and as human as that is, how does it affect my ability to perform as a child support professional? Right. So I think, one of the beauties in this particular module as part of the child support customer service training is that we relate those scenarios and those instances to the work that we do. So, for example, one of my favorite examples is, I always say, to be in child support, to be in human services in general, it's not just a career choice, it's really a calling, right? We're helping people when they need it the most. It's not an easy job. It's right. There's a lot of self-care that's required to be a good human services professional, to deal with all of that upsettedness and trauma that we see from our customers. And so sometimes our biases are well-intended, right? We say, wow, I really can identify with this person and the trauma they've experienced. Maybe I've experienced a similar or the same trauma. And sometimes that closeness that we feel can actually be an unintended bias to do things differently with that customer than we would do with any of our other customers, right? So thinking about how we apply our awareness, our cultural awareness, and our sensitivity to being open, to being in a safe environment, and to providing equal and fair services. So I think that's one of the really unique things about this particular module as well, is that it gives them the opportunity to think about that in terms of how they, as a learner, how they react in situations and how they may adjust their services based on some unintended thoughts and feelings and biases that they weren't even aware of.
Mia, you bring up a really good point, and something that we're very proud of is that when we look at all 5 modules, we've never counted, but we estimate there's over 100 different child support specific examples. And relevance for learners is very important for them to retain the information longer. So when Mia was talking about being in the child support space, it was really important for us to have all of those examples in there. And this course, even though we're talking about unintended bias and general sense, we've incorporated many different child support examples. So the learner who is the child support professional is looking at it from their lens in their work. The other thing that's really great about this is a lot of people who've taken the course, all 5 courses, and even this one, it's helped them in communicating with everyone who they interact with, including personal relationships, not just professional relationships. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next screen.
Martin Luther King Jr. said, "People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other." By the end of this course, you will have gained many important abilities to help you understand the way you perceive the world and how it influences your life and work with others. You will be able to describe unintended bias and realize that it is a part of humanity's shared psychology. Identify 7 specific types of unintended bias and explain how they can impact your work in child support. Explain in-group dynamics. Recognize the effects of unintended bias in medicine, the judicial system, education, the workplace, and social services. Define cultural competence and discuss 10 practices for cultivating cultural competence, explaining how each one constructively impacts your work in child support.
So you can see, in contrast to the basics of child support customer service, where we asked a question to the learner, here we're actually listing what they will learn throughout this module. So a little bit of a different way to state what the objective of the course will be. Now we're going to jump ahead to this is the wrong screen. I'm going to jump ahead to a video which will also help learners understand where our biases come from And this was a video that was presented in a show called What Would You Do? So let's have a look at it and then we'll discuss the outcome at the end.
This activity is based on an actual study done for the television show What Would You Do? Produced by ABC in 2016. Think to yourself what you might do if you were walking through the park and witnessed someone cutting a bike chain. What would you do? You will view 3 scenarios, each with a different person. Then you'll view what happened during the real-life study. Select View Part 1 to begin. What would you do in this situation? You can confront the man, perhaps call the police, or simply do nothing. What do you think happened in this situation? Select the Study Results button to learn what happened in the study. Most witnesses questioned this young man, but very few called the police. Select View Part 2 to view the same scene, but with a different young man. What would you do in this situation? You can confront the man, perhaps call the police, or simply do nothing. What do you think happened in this situation? Select the Study Results button to learn what happened in this study. Even though this young man was about the same age and dressed about the same way, most witnesses questioned him, then proceeded to immediately photograph him and call the police. Mentally compare this scenario with the first scenario. Are you surprised the 2 men were treated differently? Select View Part 3 to view the final scene. What would you do in this situation? You can confront the woman, perhaps call the police, or simply do nothing. What do you think happened in this situation? Select the Study Results button to learn what happened in this study. Most witnesses questioned the young woman, but hesitated to call the police. In many cases, even though she admitted she was stealing the bike, some men still helped her take the bike.
I love that I can see, I've got 6 squares on my bottom left-hand corner of my screen, and Arlene and Troy, I can see your faces because they're the ones that are highlighted there. And I love seeing the reactions to these. And, you know, this was based, as it was stated, on a show called What Would You Do? The full YouTube video is here. If any of you would like to watch it, you can also search it on YouTube to find it. But it's quite shocking how each person was treated differently just based on their looks. So it's another way for us as the teacher in this e-learning case to have somebody understand why they might have biases and where they could be coming from.
Reflect for a moment. How did bias express itself in each of these very similar yet very different situations? Were you surprised by any of the reactions in the video? This is just one example of bias. On the next section, we will discuss different types of bias.
So as we saw in the module overview, we had 7 different sections that we were going to cover, but for time today, we want to jump ahead and go to the content application for a minute. So there's the content application in this case is different from the other modules. In modules 1, 2, 3, and 5, we have actually a quiz, which the person can get answers right and wrong. Whereas this one, and Mia had said at the beginning, it's a safe way for someone to explore where these biases are coming from and also learn how to become more culturally competent. So we didn't want the person to think that they were getting a right and wrong answer when we were having them do what could be perceived as a quiz. So in this case, we've got our questions that are posed to us, And then if you select an incorrect answer, it'll tell you to select the correct answer. Whereas in the other ones, if you selected an incorrect answer, it would actually grade you, and you would have to get a 70% in order to move forward. So we've got select all, select one. We've got drag and drop. In this case, you can see that if I drag the incorrect answer into a different spot, I have to get this in the right spot here, it will bounce back out. So if I have them all correct, it stays there. And this is the same way. And I don't have an answer key in front of me. I just experiment around so you can see it jumping in and out.
And I love that feature with these types of drag and drops, you know, for any of you who've ever played solitaire digitally, right? If you're not able to make that move, it won't let you do it. And so it's the same type of technology, but it's a good way to, again, in a safe environment, let them experiment and say, oh, you know what? I thought I understood that, but it's not letting me put that there. So let me think about this again.
And in the other modules, when you get an answer incorrect, it will actually tell you which ones you got correct and incorrect and bring you back to the section that you need to review again to learn more so that you can actually get it correct moving forward. In all of the modules, the person will get a completion certificate, and then there's a link to the resources. So you saw the Stroop test in there. There's also the video to what would you do. I think there's about 4 or 5 resources that they can click on. So let's go back, and what's going to be provided to you at the end of today is a PDF version of this. So you're going to see a reference point to each of these, and so you can reflect back on what we discussed in the call. And I believe there will also be a recording of the call. One of the things that is really important is that when someone takes a course, you can see here that after about 2 days, we have almost a 60% drop in the amount of information retained. And then over time, we can see after 30 days, it goes down to about 80%, which from a facilitator or teacher's perspective, it's a pretty abysmal or dismal number to know that 80% of what we've told someone that they have forgotten. So what we've done is we've created a few tools that will help them remember the knowledge. And one of the things that I want to say preach, because it is so important, is that there's always touch points back to the information. So it becomes a remembering curve. Anytime that a supervisor can organize a conversation for the group based on information that they've learned, the more the group will remember. If the person is writing down what they have learned, they're going to remember. So we can actually flip this or invert it so that we get more of a remembering curve, that when they take the course, it's not a one and done. We actually encourage the learners to take it multiple times so that they're gaining more information each time. And Mia, I'll hand it over to you, and you can talk about how we're going to help the learners remember.
Thanks, Holly. So, you know, as you saw with some of the pieces that Holly demoed, with the knowledge checks and the exercises, the scenarios, all of those different techniques that are built into each of the modules, they're really engaging the learner with all of their senses in multiple ways to commit that information to memory. So, you know, interacting with things where they have to read, where they listen, where they, you know, see things play out, where they make choices. And they're physically making those choices. All of those things subliminally help them remember that content. And then we created 2 resource pieces that I am just in love with for this series so much that in a lot of the design work I'm continuing to do for other topics, I'm leaning more towards this style. So we've all been in classes where we've received a participant guide, right? And the participant guide is usually, you know, little images of the slides that the presenter or the teacher used and lines for you to write your notes. Great if you're a visual learner, wonderful if you're a note taker, but that's about it. What do we do with that packet when we go back to our office, or now when you go, to the next room in your house and you say, okay, I've got all these notes. What good are they? So instead of a participant guide, especially since this is self-paced e-learning, we decided to create more of a reflection journal. So as the user goes through the modules, there are touch points that they can use in their module to support and reinforce that learning. So when Holly was going through some of the basics and the elevating communication modules, and she was talking about, right, the user would have an opportunity to think about, well, what would my answer be, and record that. They would be doing that in their reflection journal. So they'd have the opportunity to make notes, to have additional thought-provoking questions, and to have other types of tools. For example, on what you're seeing on this slide in this snippet, this tool for this page for the first module is an opportunity for them to apply what they've learned by outlining their goals. So they could say, you know what, now that I've taken this module, when I think about what I'm going to do next week, what goals do I have for Monday to apply this work, to apply what I've learned? What about on Tuesday? What about overall for the month? So it gives them that opportunity to make their own reflections, to make notes in a different way, more in a supportive and application-based way, not just in notes to say, I heard this, I saw this, I wrote it down, right? That's really just rote retention. So the reflection module helps encourage application of the knowledge, which is what, as educators, we really are all looking for, that transfer of knowledge. And as professionals who make that commitment to go to training, we want to know, great, I went to training, how do I apply it? So this gives them that way to think about that. And then on the next slide, in compatibility with that, we created a leadership guide. And let me tell you, as a former supervisor, if I would have had someone say, Mia, here's your leadership guide for the things that you want your staff to do, that would have been a heaven sent gift for me, right? So in the leadership guide, we give the managers, the supervisors, ideas, exercises, ways for them to incorporate what the components of the course are into things like their team meetings, their one-on-ones, group activities, just general conversations even. But there are conversation starters, their activities and ideas. So the leaders in the organization can also look and say, you know what, we made this investment, we purchased customer service training, we gave everyone the time to do it. How am I going to support that application? How am I going to support that transfer of learning for my team? So those two collateral pieces, I think, are really what helps set this whole series a step ahead, because it not only gives you the content to learn, but it gives you a way to apply it on the individual level and as the group level. Kirsten, thanks for the vote. Love the leadership guide. Yeah, it's a great way, because that's what happens, right? We send our people to training and then we say, well, I hope they learned. Guess I'll find out when I do their performance review, right? Or if I catch them doing something that they shouldn't be doing. This gives them a much more proactive and supportive way.
So that brings us to a really great question. And we developed a poll to see if you learned anything from the training today. And this wasn't particularly highlighted, so I know that we may have a variety of answers, but we've got a poll question for you. So if you want to have a look, who provides customer service in your organization? Any staff directly interacting with parents and participants? Caseworkers, administrative and clerk staff? Any staff that interacts with any other person? We've got our fourth choice, administrative and clerk staff, caseworkers or leadership, caseworkers, administrative, clerk staff, operational staff, where we have IT, and then judges, judiciary staff, caseworkers, etc. So Mia, we can see it's coming in 91%, 92%, 88%, love it.
Yes. Yes. And what I really love about this, and even asking this question, especially for those of you that are leaders on this call, a lot of times we don't realize how many misperceptions there are about what customer service is and what customer service looks like in the child support context, right? A lot of times, even when I used to train this class in person, people would say, I don't know why my boss signed me up for this. I'm in the IT department. I don't talk to parents. I don't talk to people, right? Or I don't know why they signed me up for this. I just do locate services. I'm just on the computer all day. I never meet these people. So, or I work in the mail room. Right? I scan all the EDEs. I make sure EDE is happening, and I just make sure everybody has all the paperwork. So it's interesting to me that as we've progressed, people are recognizing, right, that customer service is really for everybody. And it isn't even just limited to the people, the parents and the participants in the program. It's with each other. It's with our partners. It's with other departments. Brian, every system interaction also is customer service or not, including notices and website tools. Absolutely, right? Because when things aren't working or things are working incorrectly, that's a customer service issue.
And in our last 3 minutes with you, I'm going to breeze through this so that if you do have any questions, we'll hold about 2 or 3 minutes for questions. So we wanted to provide this to you. Jenny has just put it in the chat. Thank you very much, Jenny. It's a PDF copy of our e-learning and what it covers. You can also see that there's a QR code, so you can take your phone and open up your camera. And if you hover your camera over the bottom right-hand square here with what looks like Morse code, it will bring you to our website where you can find more information. Because we want to talk to your organizations, and the more that we can talk to organizations, the more opportunity we have to bring this amazing education to you. We also want to provide you an easy way to book an e-learning demo. And you can see, thank you so much, Jenny. I love, you're so supportive with this, and really great. So you've entered my HubSpot meeting. So I would love to book a meeting with you. If you know that your organization wants the full 1 hour demo, you can pick a 60-minute time slot with me, and I'm happy to run through part of the demonstration that we did today, plus more. If you just want to chat about doing some custom education or other type of e-learning, it could be virtual learning for your teams, please book anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes because we want to speak to you again. We also have a virtual collaborative negotiation set of workshops coming up. So the session dates are on the left-hand side and the times are on the right. And this is put on by Kathy Sokolik. She's our Region 5 Vice President. And here it's, going through collaborative negotiation training for child support professionals. This will actually be on the PDF that comes to you, after the call as a recap. I also love that Kirsten is going to be at NCIA. We will also be there for August 6th. So please make sure you reach out to Kirsten as well as our team. We also have somebody else on the call who I'm hoping has not been blown away. Right now, Lara Flores is going to be at ERICSA next week. So please be sure to say hi to her. And I believe she's also the one that's going to be at the National Tribal Child Support Association Conference in June. And then we have more people going to the NCCSD and WCSIC. So those are the dates that you'll be able to visit with us at different conferences. Hi, Lara. So we thank you very much. We wanted to just give you an opportunity. We have 1 minute left to the call, so to be mindful of everyone's time. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or take yourself off mute, and we've got a couple of other minutes that we can spend with you. And it's moments like this where I wish I had the cricket sound.
That's great.
All right.
And for those of you, when you saw the little advertisement for the collaborative negotiation course, That course is virtual, so it's something that we're running on those dates that were on the slide, and it'll be in your copy of the materials after the call. And it's something that, because they're run virtually, they can be a mix. So if we get enough people from one jurisdiction, then it's that one jurisdiction or state's people, but oftentimes we get a mix of people from all over. So it's another great opportunity, not only to be educated on those techniques, but also to interact with people from all over.
Well, I just want to thank you, Holly and Mia, so much for joining our call today and presenting to everyone. There's tons of comments coming in the chat. Everyone seemed to really like your presentation, and I know I did. So I appreciate that both of you are here, and thanks everyone for joining our call, our quarterly call. It's always good to see all of your names and faces pop up. And again, just let us know if you do have any questions. I'm happy to put any of you in touch with Holly and Mia. If you think of something later, feel free to shoot me an email or let me know any questions that you have, and I can always put you in touch with all of those resources.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure.